in Toronto. Well, many basketball fans are thrilled and inspired by the Raptors' success. Dave McNee is more interested in the math behind it. He's the managing director of the QSLA Learning Centre in Toronto, a not-for-profit program that uses basketball to promote math skills. Hello.
How you doing there?
I'm doing well. I want to know what's the connection between mathematics and basketball?
So much. I mean, if we look at even Kawhi's shot toward the end of the game there, we have a parabola, we have a curve in his shot, and his is actually pretty high. The probability of that ball actually going in after 1, 2, 3, 4 bounces, and each bounce, actually the probability got higher before that ball went into the bucket. We use math as a way of we use basketball as a way of engaging students with math. We find that a lot of students in Toronto, particularly Toronto, with the basketball culture going through the roof, a lot of the great players that are coming out of the inner cities particularly just don't have the math skills to make it onto, play Canadian basketball, or even going on to NCAA and then hopefully make it into the NBA.
So are you actually taking a case study like Kawhi's shot to teach kids math?
100%. Actually, in one of our modules, we use certain players, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Stephen Curry, and we look at where their shots, their most popular shots are happening. And actually, Kawhi Leonard's most popular shot was in the area that he made that game-winning three.
How does the program work?
So, if we look at the shots that are made on the court, we actually take the basketball court and turn it into a classroom, like an interactive classroom. And if we take X and Y axis, we use that particular math portion, and then we combine it with, let's say, their shots, players' shots. We develop their game in the shots, show them the technique, and then we throw in the math. Which quadrant would be the better shot for that particular player? Would it be Kawhi's three? Would it be the shot closest to the top of the key? Would it be underneath the bucket? And then we overlay that with an XY coordinate. It's either -3, +1, +7, -4, and really getting these students engaged with numbers, with math, through basketball.
You said you're working closely with some students who are struggling on the edge. What kind of response have you had from them?
Positive, especially from the parents. This is something that we don't have to separate the math and basketball, so we engage them and get them excited for the game while they're playing. So they don't have to feel that they have to do the math to get on the court. They're doing the math while they're on the court.
What about you, Dave? How did basketball and math play a role in your life when you were growing up?
Well, I grew up downtown. Actually, I'm a Toronto native. Grew up downtown, Moss Park, and I was always in basketball. Loved basketball. A lot of my favorite times were basketball memories. But as I was growing up and I moved from Toronto, moving up to York Region, Richmond Hill, I found myself more disengaged from the academics. And I would only really go to school most of the time for my basketball game. But as I would get better with basketball, I would find my grades suffering. And then moving on to later on in my years, connected with another associate of mine. She's working here at our learning center, and she was having a hard time getting in as a math teacher into the math profession. And as I was playing basketball, I found that, I've always loved basketball, but wanted to find a way to, engage a lot of this youth I've been coming across with at YMCAs, community centers. So her having a hard time with with math, becoming a math teacher back in 2009, 2010, and me seeing that there's an opportunity for a lot of these young students who aren't really moving on academically. Can we have an intervention? Can we have a program that would engage them? And this is where we came about.
It's really interesting that you describe it as an intervention, because I wonder, what was your experience in terms of learning math, and how did that help shape the program?
Well, when I was younger, math was not my strong suit. And, that's really across the board. When it comes to a lot of athletes in terms of basketball, not their strong suit. And the whole idea is that our program, we are trying to engage students in terms of, they believe that they can be the next LeBron James if they just practice, or the next Kawhi Leonard. They believe that they can be on the Raptors team, no problem. But to actually become very proficient and solid in math, it escapes them. They don't believe that the practice of doing math work would actually be beneficial for them. For me, I mean, it was one of those things where I realized, and I just looked at myself as a young student, how would I engage myself back then? I mean, for me, if I were to have an intervention like this, if I were to be engaged academically while I was on the court, I would just remember a lot of the certain, parabolas, Pythagorean theorems, the key words that are in the math curriculum.
In terms of helping spread your program, how important is the growth of basketball across the country?
It's massive. I mean, and basketball across the country it's almost considered the Wild West in terms of it's anyone's sport now. You have a lot of amateur leagues popping up all over the place. We've developed our program to a point where we actually have an elite team, and they're actually competing in a tournament that's going on right now in Toronto. It's huge, and the more the Raptors win, the better it is for our program. And however, the more they win, the more players or young players think that, all I need to do is work on my game and not worry about anything else. And now that we're moving into this whole, popularity of basketball, a lot of players and young players are moving away from their academics. And the ministry's mandate for math is crucial for these young players to move on to a college or university of their choice.
Dave, a fascinating program. Last question: 0-2. That's not a very good mathematical formula for the no. Raptors right now. So what are your predictions? What are the probabilities tonight? Can you tell us, please?
The probabilities. It will be better if the bench were to start participating in this game. Kawhi Leonard can't do it alone. You have Lowry; he's been stepping up. You have Serge Ibaka, but we need better participation from the bench. And once we get that going, the probability is going to go much higher.
All right, let's get a team of mathematicians getting those probabilities down a little bit, okay?
No problem.
Thank you very much, Dave. I appreciate it. Dave McNee is the managing director of the QSLA Learning Centre in Toronto. Are you a player or a parent or a coach? What do you make of basketball culture in Canada? Give us a call. Share your thoughts. 1-888-416-8333.